Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm pleased to introduce Sheila Murphy, who has been doing this wonderful virtual job coaching series for us, Flex Professionals. She will give a little bit more background information herself. So without further ado, I turn the mic over to Sheila.
Thank you, Kristen. Welcome to today's session on career transitions. Here's just a quick agenda for us. I'm just going to go through and try to give you some really actionable, practical tips and things to consider when you are thinking about switching careers. And we'll talk a little bit about imagining your quit. And without further ado, I'm going to just start to talk a little bit about Flex Professionals so you know where we're coming from and what we do, what our mission is, and how we can be a resource to you as you consider switching careers. So I own a company with two other women called Flex Professionals. We serve the DMV area, and we are essentially a recruiting and staffing firm, but our niche is part-time or full-time flexible work arrangements. So we have been around for 13 years, so much longer than the pandemic. We have embraced flexibility as a way for companies to bring on a higher level of talent. And our target market, because we're this mission of part-time, of flexible work really resonates is with caregivers. We don't discriminate if you're not a caregiver, but our job seekers tend to be moms caring for children, professionals, moms, dads caring for children, caring for elderly family members, or anybody really who desires flexibility in order to work, but to also pursue other things like academics or volunteerism. So we've got over 20,000 job seekers in the DMV area, and we've worked with, I've got to update those figures, but close to 1,000 employers. So we do have access to jobs. I will give you my contact information at the end of this webinar. So you can go to our website and see the jobs that we have available. And we would love for you to work with us. So I used to say 2020 was the year of transitions, and then we used to say 2021 was the year of transitions. And I would say that 2022 is proving to be similarly in transition and in flux like prior years when it comes to the job market. It's sort of a crazy job market out there. It's been that way for about 2.5 years. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this because most people who are in career transition right now are have really their priorities or their needs have shifted because of the pandemic. So it's helpful to know what we're seeing out there to get a better understanding of employers' viewpoints and also the labor market itself, which are both important things when you're considering a career switch. So yes, there are definitely still fewer jobs out there than there were before the pandemic. We've had strong growth, but there's been a lot of disparity by gender and by industry. So men have recovered from the pandemic job loss much more quickly than women. Caregivers many have still not returned to work, even though we're trending back towards normalcy. There's a lot of women in particular that are still out of the workforce. What we're also seeing, and this is really important to take a look at when you're thinking of a job switch, there's a big mismatch right now between job openings, so jobs available, and the job seekers out there who are looking for work. So in some circumstances, the job seekers don't have the skills required for the job openings available. This is very, very much true in the tech sector. So there's a lot of jobs out there for cloud computing, for Java software development, for certified ethical hackers, for example, for data analysts. yet the job seekers that are looking for work don't have the skills needed to occupy those positions. The other shift that we're seeing is that there's a lot of jobs available, hospitality, for example, retail, but job seekers' preferences have changed. And those people who have occupied those jobs, or elder care, assisted living, home health care providers, those people are burned out. They don't want to go back to a job that's going to be too demanding or that has instability in it. And so they want something different. So that's what we're seeing right now in the market. So why do I mention all of this? If you are really at the beginning of exploring a new career, doing some research about the types of technical jobs and other types of jobs that are in demand might be a good way to start your career exploration, right? So some of this is self-exploration, some of this is exploring what's out there. So if you are going to learn new skills, get experience, and try to transition to something new, you might as well think about what jobs are in demand so that when you make those, get that experience and get those skills, you're actually getting those skills for jobs where you people will hire you and pay you, right? So one quick way of doing this is just Google Northern Virginia Community College workforce or workforce development. Nova has great resources for workforce development. In fact, they only receive money if they can money to provide certification trainings to job seekers. They only receive that money if they can prove that there's actually a demand by employers for those types of skills. So it'll give you a good idea of what employers are looking for. We've seen a surge in retirements, like 2 million more people retired during the pandemic than expected. We have seen baby boomers just deciding, okay, I'm done. They're leaving the workforce. What does that mean for you? It means that there's a hole in many companies, that knowledge is leaving and shoes need to be filled. And so there's potential there as well. So with retirements, there's potential. And with resignations, there's potential. Some of you might be a product of the year of the resignation. I mean, you've been frustrated. You're looking to change careers. But you also realize that there's lots of other people doing this. So it's creating vacancies in the workforce. And vacancies mean opportunity for all of you. What else are we seeing? Talent wars, pay increases. It's crazy out there. What entry-level job seekers, recent college grads are getting paid, particularly if they have technical certifications, is pretty astounding right now. We are finding from our own company, we're a staffing company, that we are finding it very hard to fill jobs because our job seekers are getting jobs left and right, getting job offers. So we might have 3 really crazy qualified people for a job. We submit them to a company. If that company doesn't hire quickly, they're going to lose out on good talent. And that talent, when they do make an offer, often have counter offers and are asking for more. So it's crazy out there. And while that can be challenging, there's also opportunities out there to get back in or to transition and receive a pay or a salary that is higher than expected. The other last thing here to consider is that because of all this flux and because the job seeker is really, it's a job seeker market as opposed to a hiring manager market, job seekers are in control. And that means that companies are actually more open to career transitions because they're having a hard time finding good talent. They're more likely to take a risk on somebody that is interested in getting into a career but might not have the skills or experience to do that career yet. So there's a lot less judgment about change. Then I'll quickly talk here about flexibility because this is such a key element right now in job searching. And I would say it is even more so with career transitions because sometimes you're doing it because you want more flexibility, or in order to transition, you need flexibility by your current employer to explore new things. So, bottom line, employers are seeing flexibility as a given, as a business imperative, not a perk anymore. I think that hybrid model of working partly from home, partly on site is going to continue. And the challenge right now for companies is how to operationalize flexibility and how to train their workforce to work in a hybrid environment or a 100% remote environment. But for job seekers and employees, this flexibility, and I think this is a lot of the reasons why people are transitioning right now, is because of the care crisis that has been exacerbated by the pandemic. So if you're caring for aging family members, if you have childcare demands and your daycares are closing, you are looking for flexibility. You're often looking to transition as well. Again, workers are rethinking their preferences, their work values, the kinds of companies they want to work for, the types of work culture they want to be a part of, and what their priorities are. And a lot of people, if they're not finding that their work supportive, they're in a supportive work environment, they are choosing to resign, they are choosing to transition to do something new. So the more savvy you are, the more tech savvy you are, the more comfortable you are with working in a flexible arrangement, with interviewing remotely, with networking remotely, with showing through the interview process that you have good technology skills to do meetings online, to project manage using software platforms and tools, you are going to be more likely to be hired. Okay. So now it's all about not just finding flexible work, but being able to negotiate for it, because flexibility means many things to different people, and to manage it. So let's begin about talking about career transitions. Is it the right time for you to transition? So here are some of the things that you ought to be thinking about when you are answering this question, right? So do you have the support structures in place? Is it a good time for you to transition? So sometimes we get so desperate in our situation. We're either unemployed, we hated our last job, we want to do something new, or we can't stand our boss, work is making us miserable, and we want to transition. But we've often get almost obsessed by that type of thinking, and we don't think about, hey, am I in a place right now financially? Am I in a place right now? Is my family in a place right now where I can make a move, even if that means lower pay, or if that means in order to make a move, I'm going to have a gap in employment? Is my partner in a job right now that's stable, that's going to give me that base foundation to allow me to make a move? Or is my partner's job unstable that I have to worry about making? If I'm going to make a move, it has to be the right move and I can't make a mistake. So those are all things you need to think about. You also need to think about what you want to do next. Is that industry stable? Some of us are miserable in our jobs and we say, I just want to be an artist. Well, being an artist is great, but being an artist for pay and for stability, financial stability, unless your timing is good, you've got great luck, and you're incredibly talented, it can be hard to do, right? So if you're looking to get into meeting planning right now, is meeting planning a good industry right now? Have people gone back to in-person meetings totally? Or are we still in a virtual environment, and that's going to come a little bit later, and it might be worth waiting before you make that switch? So those are the things you need to think about. It's all about your risk tolerant, right? And it's all about figuring out fit for you. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But this is a real opportunity now, as you start to really think about a career switch, to assess and reflect. Why are you switching? And what is it that your goals are to do that, right? So your first tip is take the time to assess your situation, your current situation, and to look ahead into what you want in the future. And some of this has to do a little bit with acceptance too. Okay. So are you looking to transition internally? Or is it, I'm sorry, is it, are the reasons why you're looking to transition internal? So internal would be, I have discovered that I don't really like to do sales anymore. I'm tired of traveling. I'm tired of that lead generation. What I really enjoy about sales is all the details that go into it. And so what I really want to do now is to transition into something where I can utilize my strong attention to detail and organizational and time management skills. Okay. That's internal. External is, my company is now 100% remote. And I have discovered that while I like to work remotely 1 or 2 days a week, I do not want to be at home in my home office 5 days a week. And so I need to change employers because of that, right? Is your desire to transition temporary? Is it because for reasons that are temporary, or is it reasons that are permanent? So temporary would be, you know, I'm working 100% remotely. My company, though, is ultimately going to go back in. So maybe you need to wait it out, right? Or is the feelings that you have about transitioning permanent, and you know that the only way to find your happiness or to achieve your career goals, you need to make a change, right? So this all has to do with priorities. It's good to be future focused. It's good to really think about not just what you need tomorrow, but what you need to do to achieve your career goals over a longer period, a year, 2 years, even 5 years, right? So a lot of us, and this last bullet here is a lot of us, just to note, most of us find our careers through career wayfinding. So very few people say, um, in high school, I want to be an engineer. They go to college, they get an engineering degree, and they become an engineer for the rest of their lives. A lot of people find their careers through wayfinding, through things that happen to you in a job, through mentors that you meet, through bosses that you have, through jobs in a new industry that you take that leads you to other opportunities. Most of us find jobs that way. So it's just something to really think about as you are transitioning or thinking about transitioning from one field to another. Tip number 2, we are all influenced by messaging, by people, by parents, by teachers, by coworkers, about careers. So you may be miserable in your job, but somebody next to you says to you, "You've got to be kidding me. Do not leave this job. You are never going to find, a career as a graphic designer and make as much money as you're making now in sales. Don't leave." Or perhaps maybe early down the road in your childhood, this happens to many women. Somebody said to you, "Oh, you're not good at math. Girls aren't good at math. So you shouldn't think about being an accountant or a financial planner or going into a STEM career." So just being aware of what people say to you sometimes gives you that freedom to open your mindset and to gain some confidence and say, okay, I know that I'm going to get this feedback, but I'm going to give myself permission to do some exploration anyways, in a wise, thoughtful way, to really figure out what's best for me. Tip number 3, I think this one's really, really important. This is important for anybody who's job searching, but it's really even more important for somebody who's thinking of changing careers, because an employer is going to look at your resume. And if you're changing careers, they're going to look at your job titles. They're going to look at some of your bullets and experience and go, huh? Why is this person applying for this job? So getting really clear on your motivations, on your preferences for the kind of work that you want to do, on what your strengths are is really important, because those are the kinds of things that you are going to have to convey in your resume, convey while you're networking and while you're interviewing, because you really can't, especially when you're transitioning, expect for the person on the other side, the hiring manager, the recruiter, a friend who can connect you to a potential employer. You can't expect them to know what you're good at and why you want to change, and what your transferable skills are, the skills that you have, that you've demonstrated accomplishments and successes using, that apply to what you want to do next. You have to help connect the dots for somebody. And so that's why it's really important to be able to identify, what are my top strengths that if I transition, I want to continue using. In the field I'm interested in, I'm going to be able to utilize these strengths because. You want to be able to answer that question and convey that to people, right? You want to be clear, like, what makes me happy in a job, right? We all have strengths. We all have personality traits. We all have aptitudes, but we don't necessarily want to use them all in a job. For example, I do these job search webinars all the time. I'm good at the presentation piece. I love updating my curriculum, doing the research, creating the PowerPoints, but managing the process where I get connections for webinars, I organize my calendar, that stuff I don't like. So it's like the meeting planning part I don't like. So I wouldn't highlight that skill, for example, on my resume, right? So think about what your preferences are. So when you talk about skills, and just to give you a very big umbrella sense of this, most people have a preference for either working with data, with people, or with things. Some people's preference are so strong, they fall into one of those categories. For, I would say, the general population, most people's strengths fall within two of those three categories. So just get a sense of that for yourself as you start to explore. And then start thinking and take some time to do some exploration about the type of the field of interest, the industry, or the role that you would like to pursue, okay? So if you look at this pyramid on this slide, at the very bottom, so you're going to start broad, right? You're going to start thinking about a lot of different things. And as you start to really think about your career transition, you're going to narrow it as you go up to the point of the triangle. So at the bottom there is sort of doing this self-exploration, doing assessments. There's lots of assessments online. The Department of Labor has one called an ONET interest profiler. That one talks about, it's a series of 60 questions where you answer the question just based on a gut reaction, not on how much money you could make or whether or not you have the skills and education to do a job, but your gut reaction about, wow, that sounds fun. And it pops out types of broad career categories that are aligned with your personality traits. So it's just a great little, quick quiz or assessment you can take to help you explore. So there's self-exploration, there's career exploration. So start to identify maybe 3, 4, 5 different fields or 5 different occupations that might be of interest to you. Then you start to narrow it down, start to have conversations with people, start to ask, so what's it really like to do this job? Find people doing work that you find interesting, talk to them, ask them for 20 minutes of their time to get a sense of what is really involved in that job. And then go back and say, okay, how does that align to my top skills? Okay. As you start to do this, you're going to weed some possibilities out. You're going to add some possibilities in. And at the end of the day, you're going to want to narrow them down so that you've identified 2 to 3 occupations or interview or industries that you want to pursue. So this process of getting clear takes time. I guess that's my biggest point here. This is be deliberate, allow yourself the time. Don't just jump ship and leave a high-paying job to do this. Do this on the side. Consider like career transition and exploration a side gig while you have a job, right? So that you can make that change and do it in a very thoughtful way. That's going to lead to the most success. Tip number 4, start connecting with people. This is so true for any job search, but it's super true for a transitioning. While you're job searching, you need to connect with as many people as you can that are in the field or industry that you want to switch to. Okay, so if you are looking to switch to human resources, you need to start networking with human resource professionals, with organizations that support human resource professionals, like the Society of Human Resource Management. You're going to want to go to LinkedIn. You're going to want to search for companies, see if you can link in with their HR directors or their HR managers or their recruiters or their HR generalists. LinkedIn is fabulous for this. You want to even connect with people you know, people who like you, people who trust you. If any of them work in a nonprofit, if you're interested in nonprofits, likely they know the HR manager. If they work for a company, more than likely, they probably have a buddy that's in the HR department that you could talk to. This is the kind of connecting that you need to do. And set a goal. I'm going to talk to one person a week. That is going to be more valuable to your transition. You're going to learn about the industry. You're going to learn about the job. You're going to learn about technology skills that are needed for the role that you might want to take on. That just talking to one person a week is going to give you far bigger bang for your buck than going online and sending 100 resumes out for HR jobs if you have no HR experience, right? You need to learn about it. You need to learn the jargon. You need to talk to as many people as you can, because referrals into a company, when you find that inside champion to walk down and give your resume to HR and say, look, I know this person is a software developer, but she really wants to do project management. I've spoken to her. I think she'd be a great fit for Joe's team. I think she should be interviewed. That type of connection is going to get you the interview. Submitting your resume online for their job opening is probably not, because you're going to get weeded out, because people in transition tend to not have the keywords on their resume that they need to get the job. Okay. So this is I would say this is probably my favorite tip in terms of if you do this, it will take time, but you will be successful in making your transition. So just lastly here, affinity groups, so professional organizations or related to your field, or your alumni. Alumni can be powerful networking groups. People are likely to talk to you, even if they don't know you, just because you share an association with them through either a church group or through an alumni group or through some other type of strong identity group. Okay, second most important tip, or equally important, I guess, from tip 4, is targeting your resume. And this is probably where people have the most challenge. They come into our office and say, I really have done my exploration. I've done a lot of thinking about this. I know that I want to transition from accounting into human resources, but I don't know how to get there on my resume. My resume is a pure accountant's resume. How am I supposed to let people know that I'm transitioning? Targeting your resume and personalizing your cover letter are two good ways to do this. So how do you do this? Search jobs, in this example, accountant that wants to do HR. Search job descriptions for human resources professionals. Look at the job duties. What are the skills that are required to be an HR person? And how can you elevate those skills? Chances are you probably have some of those skills and have utilized them in past jobs, even if your job title doesn't suggest it. Highlight those skills on your resume. So here's like examples of doing this. Or on your accountant resume, maybe you spent some time doing some human resource functions. Maybe you supported an HR manager with payroll, or maybe you supported an HR manager with benefits administration. You created some Excel spreadsheets to monitor that process. Maybe those job duties were just a tiny bit of your accountant job, but they're the types of job duties that you want to do in the future. Elevate them in your resume. Elevate them up. Take out some of the bullets on your resume related to being an accountant, like doing AP, accounts receivable, accounts payable, doing invoicing. If you don't want to do that anymore, you can even take it out or minimize it on your resume. Start to look at job descriptions for HR generalists. What are the key words that are in those job descriptions? Those words that you see time and time again. Can you add those words into your current resume? Because the recruiters are searching on those terms. Sometimes this is harder to do than others. You do not want to completely lie. You don't want to lie in your resume. You want to be authentic. But sometimes you're using words in your resume that are more common to the industry you're in and less common to the industry you're going into. And so what you want to do is you want your resume to be less of a reflection on what you've done, because you don't want to do that anymore, and more of a reflection on what you want to do. So think of it being as future forward. Okay. So that's a very difficult, targeting your resume is a very difficult thing to do for people who are really trying to make a significant career change. We will talk a little bit later in this presentation about other things that you can do and subsequently put on your resume that's going to make it stronger for the career you want to transition into. Okay. Tip number 6, be your future self on social. So the beauty of LinkedIn is that it allows you to be more creative than a resume does. And so where you feel that your resume might be weak, you can, without embellishing or without being not true to who you are or what you did, you can be more creative on LinkedIn. So an example of that is you might be a project manager and you have decided that what you love best and what you're best at in your project management is the writing piece. You're great at communicating with clients or customers. You're great at communicating with technical engineers or software developers and C-level executives. And you're great at writing proposals, which is project managers always have to contribute to proposal writing. And so you have decided that you want to get out of project management. You're tired of supervising people and you want to use your writing skills. Well, in this case, you can go on LinkedIn and instead of being a project management professional, identify yourself, label yourself, title yourself up there at the very top of LinkedIn where you have a job title as a communications professional seeking new opportunities or seeking to transition to communications, utilizing your project management skills. So you're starting to tweak how you present yourself on your resume on LinkedIn. So let people know you want to transition. And just to go back to your resume, you can do that in your resume too. At the very top, when you have a summary of your experience, add in there front and center, seeking to transition to graphic design or to technical writing or whatever it might be. So that's really important. The other beauty of LinkedIn is that you can leverage their social channels to gain industry jargon, but also to get comfortable being that new professional self that you want to be. So join industry groups related not to your old profession, but to your new profession, what you're looking to get into. Follow influencers in that industry. So if you're looking to get into marketing, follow the American Marketing Association, follow some of the marketing gurus on LinkedIn. All you have to do is search, top LinkedIn marketing influencers and Google it, and you're going to find names. Go to their profiles. Those influencers, they want people to follow them. So you can follow them very easily. You don't even have to link in with them. And finally, start to share your growing expertise in whatever field or industry you're looking to get into by sharing content on LinkedIn, by curating, sharing content, by commenting on other people's content, so that when people go look at your LinkedIn profile, you look like the communications professional or nonprofit executive that you want to be. Tip 7. So again, I mentioned this in tip 5, I think it was, about related to the resume. A lot of people get frustrated because they're like, how am I supposed to develop a resume that shows that I have experience and skills if I don't have those skills because I want to transition? Well, one way of getting the skills that you need is through learning, through upskilling, through sharpening your skills in an area that you want to get into. So back to the marketing, you want to transition into marketing. There are lots of digital marketing certificates that you can get out there. Google Analytics certificates or marketing analytics, social media management certifications. You can go on and for fairly cheap or for free, you can gain certifications and skills, and you can put those on your resume to give it some credibility. Okay. So part of your networking here, when we talked about meeting one-on-one with people, connecting with people in the industry, one of the things that you should be asking is, what type of software skills or technology skills or other skills do I need in order to do XYZ jobs successfully? So ask people who have those jobs, get their advice about the types of certifications or skills that you need, and then go for it. Learn that skill and put it down on your resume as something that you have proficiency in. It's not guaranteed that you're going to get the job, but it's going to make your resume stronger. It's going to allow you to talk about that skill in an interview with confidence. And it's going to make you, at the end of the day, feel more confident, which is a really key element to a successful transition. And I think in addition to learning, smart volunteering is probably one of the best ways for somebody who is transitioning to something completely different to get relevant, up-to-date, current work experience in that field. And this will benefit you for 3 different ways. One, it's going to give you exposure to whatever field or job that you want to do. And getting exposure is going to help you solidify, A, whether or not that type of new role is going to make you happy, and whether it's a fit for you, right? And it also is going to give you relevant work experience that you can then put on your resume, so that when somebody sees up top that you're seeking to transition, they look at your work experience and go, they really don't have a whole lot of experience in XYZ field. And then they go further down and they look at your community service or volunteer experience and they go, I see that person has done a lot of effort to get some experience in this area. I'm going to talk to this person. I'm going to take a chance on this person. So that's why you want it on there. So smart volunteering is a more proactive approach to volunteer work. So most of us are reactive. A neighbor calls us, a teacher calls us and says, hey, can you help out with XYZ? Somebody from your parish calls up, we need help with the bake sale. Can you help run it? And you're like, I don't really want to do it, but sure, I'll do it. That's reactive. Proactive is saying, okay, I want to be a graphic designer. I am a lawyer right now and I'm miserable. I'm very creative. I realize that that's a piece of me that's not being utilized in my current job. And I've taken some classes in Adobe Creative Suite. I've taken a graphic design class, and now I need to get some experience. So I'm going to ask my XYZ group, or I'm going to go to the local nonprofit. And instead of asking to work in their food pantry or their warehouse, I'm going to say to them, you know what? I would like to help you update your flyers, update your newsletter, update your website, update your logo. I'm going to give you my time for free. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to do some pro bono work for you. And in doing that, you're going to build your portfolio, right? You're going to have actual work products that you can share with an employer. You're also going to have some concrete bullets related to graphic design that you can put on your resume. And the third advantage of smart volunteering is that you're going to leverage contacts. You are going to gain some contacts professionally of people that will be able to recommend you to an employer, people that will be able to perhaps do a reference for you, and to connect you with other people that might like to help you. Because when you are working with somebody in a volunteer capacity, they automatically like you because their mission, their values are aligned with yours. And so they're more likely to help you on your job search. Tip number 9. This is very similar to smart volunteering. Offer up your services. Kind of brand yourself as an independent consultant, independent communications consultant, even if it's just a side gig or even if it's just something you do 10 hours a week. Brand yourself as that. And in order to start to get a client or two, find a friend, for example, that owns a communications firm or owns a company, a government contractor that's needs help or support for a big proposal they're doing to the Department of Defense. Say, hey, I know I don't have proposal writing experience, but can I help you? Can I start by editing your bios for your proposal? Or can I start by just editing your executive summary or helping to draft an executive summary? Or can I interview some subject matter experts for you for free and help you develop the scope of work part of your proposal section? So offering to do it for free, you don't want to do it for an entire year, but maybe for a month or 2 months to gain some really valuable work experience that you can put on your resume, to develop that work product, to be able to go in confidently and say, you know, I don't have a ton of proposal experience, but I helped XYZ company bid on $20 million worth of work with XYZ government agency, and they won the contract, and I helped them do A, B, and C. That is the kind of response that's going to get you noticed and going to get you a job. Tip number 10. This is a long process. It's not instant gratification by any stretch, at least for most people. So consider stepping stones. There's many ways forward. There is not one canned approach to successfully transitioning from one career to another. There's many, many different ways. And oftentimes the approach or path we choose has a lot to do with what we can afford financially to do. So some of us have to explore other careers by maintaining our full-time job. Some of us have the ability to reduce our hours or to quit altogether. So it's different for each of us. We just have to figure out what works best for our life and for where we are right now. Think about the possibility of a bridge position, about the possibility of switching industries, for example, but keeping the job that you don't love so much. So maybe you want to switch into the world of sustainability. And what you'd really like to do is do program management or grant development with a company or a nonprofit that is focused on environmental sustainability. But in order to get there, you might have to keep your marketing manager job title, because that is what's going to hook the company on you. So maybe you keep the same job you have, but transition to the industry that you are going to be happy in. And then as you prove yourself and as you develop more relationships in that sustainability company, you will have a better opportunity to segue into the type of role you want within that sustainability company. So that's sort of an example of a bridge position, right? And lastly, be realistic. Bigger pivots, career pivots are just, they're going to take longer to implement. If you're making a little bit of a tweak, faster. If you're doing a 360 or 180, it's going to take a lot longer. Be realistic that you might have tons of years of experience and tons of credibility at a higher level doing finance, but switching over to HR or to operations might mean you have to take a step down at a lower responsibility level or pay, right? So that is something that some people don't think about. And then they get to the job offer process and they're completely bummed out because the offer that has been extended to them is of far lower responsibility or pay. So it's good to just recognize that up front, and that might just guide your decision of whether or not you really want, at the end of the day, to transition. Okay. So before we close up here, I did want to share with you this book by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. They are Stanford University professors who have a very technical engineering kinds of backgrounds. And they have written a great book about design thinking, which is really trending right now. It's a process that's very formulated way. It's a process or way of looking at yourself in your career to figure out your next move. And it's a highly regarded book. And it's also very helpful for you to really decide, do I really want to transition or not? Do I really want to leave my current job? So for those of you that are working right now, some of you might be out of work and are looking to transition to something different. Some of you might be working and maybe you're miserable in your job. And what this book is asking you to do, so if you're in that position, and even if you're not, it's just a great book to start as you start to think about transitioning. But the book talks about imagining your quit. So what does that really mean? What they're talking about here is first reflecting. So, why is it, what makes you happy? What makes you tick in a job? Is it that you love to learn in your job? Is it loving to initiate things, to start projects? Is it helping people? What is it that is in your job that you love, or that you're missing from your job that would make you happy if you had that job, right? And then they talk a little bit about make or mix, which is sort of the intersections of the importance of money, of making an impact in what you do, of being able to express yourself in your job, and what kind of combination of those is the best fit for you. It also talks about managing overwhelm and burnout, that sometimes we think we want to change our jobs, and it's more to do with that feeling of overwhelm and burnout, but that if we imagined our quit and if we actually got rid of the pieces of the job that we didn't like and could hand them over to somebody else and to take on just the pieces of the job that we love, we'd be much happier. So sometimes transitioning really requires some self-reflection to figure out, can I do what I love? Can I make it work and do that transition at my own company without having to leave? So this book talks a lot about that. And then it talks about, okay, if you've made the decision to really quit, that you can't get what you need out of the current job that you have, or the current situation you're in, start to imagine that quit. What is that going to look like? List out what you're going to do, what you're going to say, what can possibly you delegate to other people or ditch entirely? What can you do more of? What can you recompile? Taking these steps and thinking about that, coming to that conclusion, I'm going to take that risk of going in and having a conversation with my boss about what my needs are, knowing that that boss might not be able to meet my needs and I will have to quit. And this book teaches you how to quit well, basically, so that you don't burn bridges, so that you do it in a way that's going to be beneficial to your own professional and career development. Okay, closing up here. I hope you found those tips and strategies helpful. We are here to help you in your career transition at FlexProfessionals. We would love to work with you. On this page is our website. We have lots of resources specifically related to career transition, but we also have lots of other job search resources like resumes and interviews and networking. For questions, if you have questions, please contact us at jobs@flexprofessionalsllc.com. But most importantly, on our website, we have tons of jobs, and we welcome candidates who are looking to transition. Let us know what you're interested in and why, and we would love to work with you. And the first step in that process is to submit your resume online. There is no cost or obligation on your part, but by submitting your resume online, it gives you access to all of our jobs, and it gives our team access to your resume so that they can help try to find the right fit between an employer of ours that embraces part-time and flexible work and what your career interests might be. So please feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, email me, and good luck with your transition. That's it for me.
Thank you, Sheila. In the comments, there's it was all very helpful, which, as always, your presentations are always fabulous. And just to let you know that we are currently working with FlexProfessionals to have a series of resume workshops in select branches this fall. So stay tuned for that. We're currently hashing out dates and locations. Very fun part of program planning. So that will be coming soon. And you will receive a copy of this recording if you care to view it later or share it with people that you think that would benefit from it.